Hello teachers, I'm Danielle Parrott, and this is an instructional video about how to do a fun activity about adaptations called Designer Animal. This activity is great for young students and older students. I use it with my 9th graders, but it's easy enough to follow for 3rd graders probably. The big concepts here are that adaptations are physical and behavioral characteristics that allow an organism to survive and reproduce in its environment, and that adaptations are environment specific. I love this activity because there's lots of creativity, imagination, and drawing skills. The premise is that we're in the year 3000 and humans can now genetically engineer organisms of any kind to suit any environment they want. So as scientists, their job is to create an organism that is adapted to live on one of 4 different planets. So this on the right is Mr. Pretty Fly Chillman, and he was designed by some of my 9th graders a few years ago. Now, what they have to do, they get to invent an organism of anything they want. I just asked them to try and keep it relatively realistic, so no breathing fire and no, guns coming out of your fingertips or anything like that. But nature is really weird, so if they want something that squirts blood out of its eyes, go to town, because that really exists. So they can get very creative as long as all these 7 things are addressed. So we need to have on our page here, they need to address how their organism eats, how it regulates its temperature, how it protects itself from attackers and protects its young, how it catches and gets both its food and its water, where it finds shelter, and how it attracts a mate. Those are always pretty fun to watch. So as you can see, Mr. Pretty Fly Chillman he's large, so even if the organism in their reality is small, it needs to take up the whole page. It needs to be colored in. So even if they have a black animal or a gray animal, they still need to color it. They can't just do a pencil drawing. So it needs to fit the whole page. It needs to be colorful. And each of the adaptations needs to be clearly labeled with arrows pointing to the adaptation on the organism itself. So for instance, Mr. Pretty Fly Chillman finds its shelter by hiding in caves in the mountains and can fit into small spaces because he can compress like a sponge. So his ability to compress like a sponge is his adaptation to this specific environmental factor. There are 4 different planets. One is dark and cold and mountainous and rainy. One is dry and hot and flat with water found in underground aquifers. One is wet and hot and it's covered in rainforest. And one has a moderate climate and has a wet season and a dry season. Each of these planets has its own varieties of animals and plants that their organism has to adapt to be in community with. As far as assessment goes, I keep it simple. This isn't one of those high intensity assessments, but I just want to be sure that they've addressed all of these points and that their final product is colorful, it's neat and legible and fun, hopefully. So again, this is a great activity. It's creative and imaginative to either introduce or elaborate and assess what they know about adaptations. I hope you enjoyed this and I hope you can use it in your classroom.